Sometimes when you adventure into nature, you never know exactly what to expect. I mean, you can make predictions, but sometimes new obstacles come afoot, and while you can consider them, you don't necessarily think they're going to come your way. Now, I don't think in regards to those of you who have gone camping that something of a horror... I mean, you might have, like, ghost stories that pop in your head, but we obviously regard those, again, as, tall tales and folklore. We don't necessarily think of those as a presentable threat. We might think of maybe a wild creature coming on or some inclement weather that we can't predict, because, sometimes nature is fun in that way. Although I can't necessarily ever say I've gone directly in regards to a camping journey. I've never been camping, in fact. I've been out, in terms of vacations and stuff, but never roughing it, as probably many people have. I didn't have that journey. But I can certainly attest from people that I know who have taken on, camping journeys that they're probably better informed of the threats going in that could pop up. But they don't usually tend to think of stuff within the horror cinema scene as real manifestations of threats. But it can make for entertaining cinema fare, and I think for the Outwaters, there is some potential, at least from the sounds of it in terms of a pitch. It's kind of engaging. It seems like a smaller release, at least from my understanding. The poster is kind of cool. I mean, it has a bit of an indie award chic, at least in my opinion. A bit supernatural in vibe. I mean, I don't know if that's what the threat is, but at least it seems the way it's presented, like this giant eye in the sky of a desert scene. The slogan, "We all die in the dark." It's enticing. It's somebody who's... I'm less a thriller guy. I'm less a horror guy. I'm much more a thriller person. It's unsettling enough that it endears me in regards to an unsuspecting release. Maybe that suspenseful journey will be well manifested here. And again, like I said, to me it has the chic of being a smaller project. Maybe again going for... Did it go for any awards debuts? I just have that sense when I look at the poster. Again, even though maybe it's just limited in regards to being more indie adjacent. Oh, it did go... I guess it's being officially released at some point soon, but it's made its way through at least what I'm looking at on IMDb, through U.S. distributors. There's the New Jersey Film Festival, an unnamed footage festival, Panic Fest, and the Chattanooga Film Festival. So it's been for a couple other big name circuits. And again, like I said, I look at the poster and I just see that energy. When you look at awards fair, there are certain clues that maybe give off that type of vibe, and this project does. And aside as well from other indie releases, you have a director, writer, and star here who's all in the same capacity. Robert Banfitch. I'm not familiar with his name. Maybe he could be quite the talent. I don't know. We'll see how this... he's got some background in terms of being a producer. He's a producer on his own project. He's got a lot of stuff he's done in terms of directing and some upcoming. He's got, I think, a good record. He's got a lot of shorts, at least from what I'm looking at. This could be kind of interesting. I'm interested to see perhaps how this materializes as a complete work. But if you're not familiar with the Outwaters, I like that name. This is the general pitch as presented by IMDb. It's basically kind of what I've given you in some, but in more detail. 4 travelers encounter menacing phenomena while camping in a remote stretch of the Mojave Desert. I will say in regards to the horror landscape, I think of in terms of out in the, boonies somewhere journeys. Not necessarily... I'm trying to think if there's any projects I've seen maybe along the camping lines. I don't know exactly. But most of the films I've seen that intersect into the horror and thriller territory that are themed around someone in, some outside setting somewhere coming up a much more suspenseful threat, whatever the nature happens to be, I'm thinking of more like forest set movies. I think that's a go-to for a lot of filmmakers. But, I mean, the desert could be kind of interesting. Again, I'm interested to see perhaps the nature of this celestial threat, at least what the poster presents. I don't know, maybe again that's more of an artistic liberty choice. Let's see what the project has to offer. I have 2 advertisements pulled up, the teaser trailer and the trailer specifically, so we're going to get a good background here. Let's start, and we're just going to go from one to the other, starting with the teaser trailer. Let's get a good impression for this, but again, I think there's some potential to it. I'm curious to see more of the Outwaters in its evolved vision, especially in a desert set thriller. That could be interesting. I don't see, again, like I said, as much of that in comparison to maybe other settings, especially among forests. So it's a more original choice, at least in my opinion, but I'm interested by it. I speak, again, primary focus of familiarity of what I've seen. I like the energy I'm getting from the audio choice, from other Western type projects. I'm saying Western in respect of Western genres. It's got that.
I had a dream about my mom.
soft, like country type song, or sitting by the fire type
like
energy. I like it. It's good. It's a good vibe.
Like a black storm, and it was her body, but her arms were part of the storm.
I had weird dreams too.
Plenty of good credits.
For a second.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's a lot of views.
Yeah, we need to like leave.
Lots of boasting.
Oh my god.
I'm curious.
I don't want to be here anymore.
Soul of Christ, magnify me, body of Christ, save me, blood of Christ, inebriate me, on the side of Christ, wash me, vengeance of Christ, strengthen me, courage.
Well, it's a good idea to call out to God. Especially in the sense perhaps of a supernatural threat. I don't know. It's like a found footage type movie in some regard. Interesting. You know, I like the found footage element. I mean, obviously this track, it's an interesting way to begin it. This is very much a teaser of like, oh, let's start out with all of these great regards you've gotten from many different aspects. I'll just read maybe a selection here. A Chronicle of Omen and Doom, that's from Film Cred. A horrifying hallucinatory journey from The Pitch. On track to become the next cold horror movie, what everybody wants, I'm sure. Like I said, I'm much more a thriller guy, but the aspects in terms of the horror atmosphere, I like. Suspense, you know, I'm generally enticed by that in regards to the film fare that I watch and stuff in the indie space. I try to keep a good eye in regard to smaller film fare, because again, sometimes it's where you see talent really be birthed. And, you know, by the same respect, I do continue to present an eye on the commercial stuff, but I do like seeing, again, smaller talents make their presence known, especially in regards to the liberty that many filmmakers can experience or can exercise there, where perhaps in commercial fare it might be a little more limited based on studio constraints. I mean, you're still constrained, to be fair, like in the indie market, especially on a budgetary respect and perhaps familiarity in regards to your name. But, I mean, like I said, this guy's got a bunch of shorts in his record. What's his name again? Robbie Banfitch. So he's not a stranger, again, to film fare. I don't know necessarily in regards to the projects I looked at in that filmography how many of them float into the horror landscape. But sometimes you see people come, you know, a long way from this short atmosphere. Like, for example, in terms of recent offerings, A Smile, the film on Paramount Plus, it was their exclusive. It was in theaters for a while. Good movie, by the way. I understand that one, for example, evolved from a short film, which I've seen, and I watched it right after I watched the movie, and it was really cool to see, again, that jump from small screen to big screen. Well, small screen, I guess actually, to put more accurately, smaller name to much larger name that I'm very curious to see evolve even more beyond just the theatrical debut with Smile. It was a really interesting experience to, again, have that combined viewing. And, you know, by the same respect, it might be very enticing in regards to Robbie Banfitch to look at perhaps some of the shorts that he's done, if those are accessible in any way on a broad scale for a general audience, and if not, maybe they're limited to some, you know, particular outlet. If I can watch any productions for myself to best gauge perhaps his journey of talent evolving into the more mainstream cinema space. I see familiar threads to other types of horror stuff. I like this Western type vibe. It does have an indie flair. In respect to this camera, I get found footage image, sort of like the Blair Witch. I like that movie quite a bit. So, you know, that's an automatic. And I think it's a good reference point for a lot of filmmakers use, especially in the indie space. I've come across films that kind of float in that territory, but, you know, it's a film that's gotten a lot of good regard, and it deserves to. And you obviously have a lot of filmmakers that in some way, maybe this is just a connection I'm pulling out, but it comes off as a bit of a connected thread. I like what I'm seeing. I think there's some potential, even though, again, that was mostly just a bunch of lavish praise as a collection for a teaser trailer, which is fine. That's good boasting for your name. This is the main trailer, though. I'm thinking this one's probably going to go a little more in depth. And as I understand, this is one of the more recent marketing debuts. In fact, I think it released today, as far as I'm aware of it. So let's all get a fresh look to this and get a better perspective on the Outwaters. I think, though, it looks like a curious and good release from what I can see of it. I like the aged chic. Presents a nice feel. Fits very well, again, like I said, in establishing that horror mood. And it really does have that indie feel. I know I didn't read all the reviews of the last one. There were just so many to read. Maybe some of those popped up and there's a connection. Max does movies. I don't know. Is that like a YouTube channel or something? I like that take, though.
Please call me.
It's simple, but it's good enough.
I'm so worried about you and your brother. I haven't heard from you guys in days. I had a really bad dream. It was horrible. It was really, really sad. Please call me. I'm so worried. I love you.
Setting in the mood of a phone call. I mean, there's other film fare that's done that as well. That could be quite good in regards to the final presentation, especially in terms of the emphasis and how eerie that might get in the mood. I'm not a bug guy, so that brings me automatically in terms of suspense.
911, what are you reporting? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I like the mood.
Ma'am? Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Nice. I think that'd be a fun way to enjoy the movie. And again, like I said, it's made its way into the award circuit, so I can certainly see perhaps attention being levied from that to fittingly put this film into theaters. I mean, again, like I said, it's obviously a much smaller film in regards to its scope and the way that it's presented. You see that with indie fare all the time, but I do respect it. Especially with such effective marketing. The energy to that ad, especially in regards to the call that you're listening to the entire time and the way it escalates into that 911 call without any receival of the operator. But you can hear the screams, you can hear the danger on the other side. It's good. It's a wonderful establishing mood. I think it's presented really well. It's very nature-centric. I think that might be for those people who are perhaps, if you're sort of an adventurer in regards to camping, much more than I've been, ever. But you still like to get around in nature. I'm kind of that person too. If you're somebody that likes experiencing that outside feel, I think the setting will be very endearing to you, especially if maybe, again, the forest landscape has become such a mainstay for you in horror that maybe it comes across as a bit cliche. And maybe there's some other filmmakers I figured out that maybe are doing some work in the indie space, maybe developing projects to their vision that I don't want to be too disparaging on it. But I do see that space being widely occupied among many different releases, especially as a location pick of choice. Perhaps, again, because of the projects of inspiration that have come before that maybe have had much bigger reception and name. Like I said, The Blair Witch, in regards to the found footage aspect, which many films have also played in regards to that being a very prominent film of reverence for many. Some say it's a bit overused in regards to paying it as an homage, but I mean, I don't think so. Again, that film has spoken to a lot of people. It's in the capacity of what horror films can be and what they've really materialized into, especially on the found footage line. There's been some great releases that come after. But I'm always interested, again, like I said, to gauge smaller talent. And a project like this that has the awards background, it's active in the circuits, or it's been, at least in the past, and now it's getting a limited theatrical debut as of February 9th. It's a great way to access it. And trailers that present wonderful regard in terms of what people have seen of it. People can speak to the quality, obviously, but what I'm seeing as well in the final presentation is suspenseful enough that it's endearing. I think there's good merits to it that boast a compelling picture, especially on the horror line. I'm curious to learn more about the stories and see the characters' evolve vision. I do think, though, like I was saying, in terms of the nature stuff, setting it in the desert, I think, is a great choice. The energy of that first ad, again, like I said, with the humming, that's very centric to like a campfire scene or other types of Western films that have gotten trailers have utilized maybe more well known country-esque tunes, especially maybe country rock type atmosphere songs. It had a similar vibe to that. Like, I'm thinking of, what's that one they used off Logan? Oh, shoot. I forget the name of the song. Or both of them, actually, because there was... Didn't someone say it's like Johnny Cash? I wouldn't know. I know I should make my background a bit larger in regards to maybe well-known music artists, more revered names. I'm kind of more in the experimental space of the alternatives and unknowns. But, you know, I see a lot of talent in that space. Like I said, this short film fair, don't even get started on music. Anyway, the atmosphere to the ads, I think, are very effective in regards to delivering a good presentation, I think, on a serviceable release of a horror film. Maybe quite a compelling one. And one that I would believe, you know, again, is a nice evolution from going from the short film landscape, making something a bit more larger in scope. This being, how long of a movie is it? 100 minutes? Not bad. It's over standard length of like TV films for about 10. So it could be quite good. We'll see. I mean, again, it's got a very fresh atmosphere to it, and I do think what I'm seeing in terms of the poster, as well as the ads presentation, I'm very curious to get a better perspective in the inner workings of the movie and to actually see it in full. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it down below. Like I said, I think the artistry of it is quite compelling. That immediately brings me in, especially in regards to the indie attribution. That is a point I consider in high regard. Or sometimes you never know, but for most of the projects I've seen and consulted, I usually see a point of strength at the very least that I like to commend a film for, and I'm always game again to see the adventurism of burgeoning filmmakers. I'd be curious, though, to hear perhaps your thoughts down below, whether maybe you've checked out this release before that I have, or if this is a fresh look for you. And if you still wish to disclose your perspective, like I was saying, I'd love to hear maybe what angle you consider this project, and if you'll find yourself in theaters as of February 9th, if this is an accessible film for you, depending on where it's going to be shown. I think it looks pretty good. I'm definitely considering, you know, February is not as much of a booked month for me in regards to cinema viewings, maybe in some respects, but I think I could make time if there's a way for me to be able to access this. I'm anticipating a limited debut. We'll see. Maybe it'll get a wider distribution at some point. If, again, it's not accessible to me by February 9th, I'll find it in another place. But I will definitely keep the Outwaters in regard as a name. I'm curious to see its story evolve. And to best judge, I guess, the talents involved, especially when it concerns Robbie Banfitch, to see perhaps where his vision will go. Because, again, like I said, you never know. Indie filmmakers can be catapulted. Look at the horror landscape with other artists of recognition, and you'll see that. I'm curious to see maybe the evolution of, you know, not only his work, but the project in itself. I think it's quite engaging. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.